Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. Since 2009, I've tweeted 4,600 times about, and 500 in the past year. Here are my favorite 56 from that past year. Twitter now allows 280 characters to allow for more nuance, so a few of these are long, especially this first one. We extol democracy, but it has given us, for example, certain presidents. Who is in our vaunted democratic electorate? Well, 77% of Americans believe in angels, and 45% believe astrology is, quote, very scientific or, quote, sort of scientific. And that's in the US. The world has 123 democracies. How many of those do you think have a more enlightened electorate? Next tweet. And who do you think the leading candidates for President of the United States as of January 24th, 2018, less than 2 days from Inauguration Day? On the Republican side, Donald Trump. On the Democratic side, Oprah Winfrey. My next 7 tweets are about the media. As adults, our values, our voting patterns, our behavior choices are heavily influenced by the media. The next tweets express concern that rather than broad-mindedly educating us, the media is increasingly manipulating us to believe what they believe, even though the people in the media is just a tiny subset of the public. It's a subset that on average has spent much more time in the academia and journalism bubble than in the real world. Here are those tweets. The first one is, the latest polling shows that the public views the media as ever more biased, and in the list of trusted professions, journalism is near the bottom, along with politicians and lawyers. Media tactic. They relentlessly promulgate a view, then they take a poll that, of course, finds that the public agrees. After all, that's what the media did, manipulate them to agree. And that in turn strengthens the public's belief in what the media wanted them to, because most people want to join the consensus. We should understand that it is often a manufactured consensus. Next tweet. Marilyn Vos Savant, who is the person with the highest recorded IQ according to the Guinness Book of Records, wrote, I am pained, this is a quote, I am pained to witness the breakdown of the American media. Most no longer report the facts. Instead, they try to create impressions. Next tweet. Today's media is so revved up by its echo chamber that it ignores its vow to offer diverse views, instead often censoring all but the orthodoxy. Next tweet. The news and entertainment media have become so sophisticated in their ability to manipulate us that they get the public to do their bidding on most issues and politicians that the media trains its sights on. Next tweet. Back in 300 BC, Philemon wrote, quote, we are all crazy when we are angry. Well, thanks to the media inflaming us, since President Trump's inauguration, more than 12,000 tweets have called for his assassination. Next tweet. The media, especially in movies, novels, and plays, assert that most corporations and well-off people are evil. To what extent do you believe that's true? And the final tweet in this section. Political bias too often trumps rationality in today's foaming mouth society. But no matter how extreme the ideology promulgated in the media, sooner or later, real life tends to pull people back toward the middle. Almost as influential in our thinking and actions as the media is higher education, which today tends to be about as biased as the media. The next tweets focus on the wildly priced higher education, what I consider America's most overrated product. Colleges certify bachelor's level competence with a diploma, yet many graduates write and think so poorly. It's amazing that more students and employers don't sue. Next tweet. Reading literature adds to a life well led, but most authors of literature opted out of the real world and thus have a jaundiced view of that real world. The next tweet. Curriculum should be developed by doers, not professors. Next tweet. Respected Harvard professor, public intellectual, and liberal Steven Pinker recently wrote, quote, the left continues its slow suicide by intolerance, emboldening the right. Richard Dawkins deplatformed in Berkeley? Next tweet. Too many colleges are a 6-year, 6-figure summer camp, indoctrination camp that lemming parents go broke for, so kids can be underemployed placard wavers. The final tweet in this section Many truly talented creatives don't need to be taught bit by bit with everything broken down into baby steps. For them, it's organic. The bit by bit approach is painful and rarely results in excellence. That's especially true for things like playing the piano, which is something I do. My next 11 tweets are about the double standard in which men are treated unfairly relative to their merit. It's the kind of statistics that the aforementioned biased media will not report. It's censorship from the feminist-dominated media, and it really is. My first tweet on this: the National Academy of Sciences found that women are strongly preferred 2-to-1 over men in hiring for tenure-track professorships. Next tweet: the average sperm count is down 50% in 38 years, yet that is little known nor addressed. Imagine if women's fertility was down 50%. Title of an article in the Huffington Post: suicide rate for teen boys and girls are climbing. Subtitle: the rate for girls has doubled since 2007. End quote. Buried in that article is that the male suicide rate is 3.5 times that of females. Why is that shocker not in the title or subtitle? Next tweet: men are now far less likely to attend and to graduate from college, and there has been dramatically less redress than occurred a generation ago when females had the deficit. Next tweet: do enough people ask, to what extent is privilege earned? Next tweet: Hillary Clinton said famously, "The future is female." A Google search reveals that that phrase now has 500,000 Google links. I looked at the first 50 and almost all are supportive. Now just imagine what would occur if President Trump said, "The future is male." Next tweet: many contributory people are unfairly devalued by the phrase, "the future is female," and by the assertion that much white male accomplishment is the result of privilege. Next tweet: we're generally told we should accomplish something before being proud of yourself and never be loud and proud. But today's feminist cry is loud and proud. Next tweet: even if the person makes $95,000 a year, 71% of women, but only 14% of men feel it is, quote, essential that their romantic partner has a steady income. Next tweet: few men switch to a more pleasant career once they've taken on the responsibility of a low-earning spouse, home, and kids. Many more women stay home or work on pleasant part-time jobs, and women do 85% of the consumer spending. And the final tweet in this section: all the attention to male failings seem to be decreasing men and women's desire to become romantically involved and for men to get hired. Could that be part of the movement's intent? My next 11 tweets are on career. First one: a person receives outsized benefits from being conventionally attractive. That's unfair because, notwithstanding haircut and perhaps makeup, a person acquires attractiveness through no effort. Of course, that benefits the person not just in career, but personally. Next tweet: quote, inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work. That's by Chuck Close, an eminent artist and photographer. Next tweet: my best tip for addressing procrastination: stop looking back. Take the next step forward, starting with your next 1-second task. Next tweet: new managers and leaders, ask employees, what 3 things must we change? What 3 things must we keep? What do you most want me to do? And what are you most afraid I'll do? Next tweet: one of my clients' resume summary said, quote, top achieving professional. But in our session today, she said, quote, I doubt my ability to do anything. Employers, beware of resumes. Next tweet: the key to making the most of your abilities is to be in an environment with peers you get along well with. Or if you're not social, to be self-employed in a one-person business. The specific career is not crucial as long as it uses your core ability, whether it be words, people, STEM, or hands-on. Neil Simon, in his play Broadway Bound, wrote, quote, the smilers get to be the salesmen. The smilers get to be the bosses. The smilers get all the girls. Your father paid a price for not being a phony, end quote. Next tweet. Sales reps are often the most incented to sell the highest margin bad products. For example, that condo next to a loud neighbor. Beware of salespeople. Next tweet. I used to embrace free market capitalism, but too often customers pay more for less, workers are treated badly, and too many can't compete. Next tweet. The middle class is getting ever more squeezed, so it's racing ever more frantically to try to avoid getting sucked down into poverty. My final tweet in this section, to keep upbeat, unless I'm doing something pleasurable, ongoing, I ask myself, what is the next thing I have to look forward to? My next 11 tweets are about recreation. My first is, what a lovely simple pleasure, reading my news feed while sipping coffee in a quiet room. The next one is, Kindle makes reading more pleasurable. Amazon's predictive search recommends books you'll likely enjoy. You can peruse them for free, and if you like one enough for no more than the cost of a pizza, you can get the book instantly, which you can read along with any of dozens of others you may have downloaded anywhere. Total weight, 6 ounces. The rest of my tweets about recreation are about the form of recreation just made legal in California, and that is recreational marijuana. In early 2017, the American Academy of Sciences meta-evaluation of the 200 best quality studies on pot's effects pointed to serious risks. And in just the year since then, additional solid findings give reason for worry. And each of these is a separate tweet. Neuroimaging, cannabis, and brain performance and function. A report in Psychology Today. Quote, a fastidious meta-review and synthesis of the existing research brings clarity, end quote. Next tweet, the LA Times headline, California will regret legalizing marijuana if its experience is anything like Colorado's, end quote. Next tweet, recreational marijuana, quote, linked to increase in vehicle collisions, end quote. Next tweet, quote, early marijuana use may have long-term effects on brain development. Of course, each of these has a link to the research study. Next tweet, CNN reports 133% leap in children admitted to the emergency room for marijuana. Next tweet, marijuana linked to psychosis in Canadian adolescent cohort. Next tweet, Tel Aviv University study links, quote, links adolescent use of marijuana to schizophrenia. Next quote, more relevant to us adults, marijuana use may triple hypertension death risk. Next tweet, anecdotally, many of my stuck clients smoked much marijuana when younger. Even though it's been decades, their motivation and memory remain impaired. And finally, my final tweet in this section, just what we need. Buds McKenzie joining Spuds McKenzie as we grapple with affording health care and with China and India winning formerly U.S. jobs. And my final 4 tweets don't fit in any of the previous categories. First one is, a parenting mistake, idle threats. For example, a man was in front of a store and his 5-year-old dawdled a few feet away. He said, if you don't come here right now, I'm leaving you here. The child cried and plodded to him. Next tweet, research's validity suffers from publish or perish, no pay for reviewers, and that in each micro area, only a few possible reviewers exist, many of whom are friends with each other. It's worse in social science because of the greater risk of ideological bias, squishy variables, and myriad covariates. I trust logic first and solid hard science research second. My next tweet, in response to a reader question about how I'd reform healthcare, it seems wisely centrist to have 2 tiers within single payer. Basic care for all, higher level care for payers into the system. And my final tweet, is it clear that today's lifestyle values are yielding more happiness and net societal good than the values of the derided 50s and early 60s? I am Marty Nemko, and I thank you for watching. The text of a somewhat larger list of these curated tweets can be found on my Psychology Today blog. And the easiest way to find that is simply to Google How to Do Life tweets. Again, I'm Marty Nemko, and thanks for watching.